Marlene is here today to speak on the topic of content marketing. But who is she? So she actually has over 60 years of experience working in the nonprofit sector or for the nonprofit sector. Also very experienced. She has her own consulting firm called Flowflow, where she helps nonprofits create content, develop marketing strategies, the whole 9 yards. And she also runs a very informative nonprofit marketing website called Nonprofit. Wait, it stands for Nonprofit Marketing Community, but it's Nonprofit Mar Community. So it's here if you're interested. And you can also follow her on Twitter. She tweets a lot of interesting content, and she has a lot of great insights on that. She also hosts a Twitter tweet chat last Thursday of every month, and there is a lot of discussion on that channel. Topics include, like what is your blogging strategy? How do you do market research at your nonprofit? So there's a lot of great insights there as well. So I'm just going to change your presentation to Marlene, but I'm just going to invite you now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. One of the things about my company name has flow in it, and I see myself very often as helping nonprofits to sort of release the flow that people I'm working with, they know, they have assets, they know what they're talking about, they're rich with information. I just help them get it out. And in that spirit, I will be presenting today, not as a content marketing expert, but as someone working in the field, observing and hoping to glean wisdom from this group as well. So that networking exercise was perfect. I'd like to just be privy a little bit to what the conversations were. So just to kick us off, I want to hello to everyone on the live stream as well. Would you mind raising your hand if you are already delivering nonprofit content marketing today? Oh wow, great. And what about if you know about content marketing and you're ready or you're almost ready but you're not there yet? Anyone? And then is anyone here because they want to learn what content marketing is? Cool, thank you for your honesty, awesome. Okay, so Joyce introduced me very nicely. I don't have really anything to add. This year, people have started mentioning that I've been doing this for over 15 years, over 16 years, and that kind of surprises me every time. I worked in a large health nonprofit before I launched my business in 2008. So I do get the inside, the realities. It was a large organization, so different than grassroots for sure, but the realities of restricted budgets and high demands. And then as a consultant now, I work with a greater breadth of nonprofits. And the nonprofit mark community and NPMC chat are my way of giving back to the community. I work with nonprofits, they're my clients and customers, and I use this online platform to bring people together and share information among themselves. So if anyone is interested, the Nonprofit Mark Community blog is really focused on how to do things, how to do day-to-day tasks within nonprofit marketing. And I always welcome guest authors. I almost never write anymore because we've got such a great team of guest authors. And then the chat, as Joyce fully described it, last Thursday of every month. And the last year or two, I've started to do more training and more facilitation. Again, because I can sit down and write copy for clients or write communications plans, but that really limits how many nonprofits I can work with or help at a time. So I'm just sort of broadening my business right now. So I have an online course. There's a little picture of it there on writing website copy. I'm launching a training series this Friday, and I'll mention it briefly at the end of the session. So a little bit about you. We're going to actually get up from our chairs to kick off this conversation today. I'm going to ask you to do a little activity. So you're going to see some tactics up on these flip charts around this side of the room. In-person events, illustrations or photos, e-newsletters, podcasts, video, research reports or white papers, microsites, blogs, and back here is infographics. So what I'm going to ask you to do is you see post-it notes on the chairs around you, or maybe you put it under your chair. I'd like you to take a post-it note, write on a top note. If you need a pen, just here. Oops, wrong pocket. I'd like you to write the name of your organization. Does anyone need this? Oh, would you mind passing me? On the top piece of paper, the nonprofit that you work in, or maybe as a consultant that you serve. And And then this is where I ask you to get up from your chair and stick that Post-it note onto the flip chart if that organization is delivering that tactic. You don't have to be, super proud of exactly how it's done, but just kind of want to know what people are doing when it comes to some of these tactics. So this might take a little while. I know you're going to have to get up from your chairs and move around. If you don't work in a nonprofit and you don't serve nonprofits right now, maybe help the person next to you if they need help writing down their organization 9 times. There's 9 options here. Okay, I'll leave you to do that. Please go ahead.
The name of the organization.
Your organization's name, that's right. Cool.
Yes. Research
INFOGRAPHICS.
blogs are on this infographics. Yes.
Okay, it's phone.
Oh, sorry. Is anyone feeling like they wish there was another piece of paper up on the wall because they want to talk about or want to post their name on another tactic? Jenny, you can get so close your chips.
I've been staring at it since she started talking.
Any responses? Can I get the live stream? Oh, sorry. Am I telling it perfect?
If they would like, we'll do the first one.
Oh, okay.
Run our business today? To me.
Yes, fine. Thank you. Oh, that's only if that's right.
MJ dropped out.
Okay, looks like we're more or less good there. So of course I didn't tell you ahead of time that means I'm going to ask you questions later on, right? But thank you for doing that. So it's an interesting mix. I didn't expect anyone to put anything on podcast. That's cool. Who wrote podcast? Now you don't want to say it. It might have been less perhaps. Okay, cool. And great mix of organizations I see here today. All right, so what is content marketing? According to Seth Godin, in 2008, he said content marketing is the only marketing left. I don't know if you agree with that, if you agree with that this year, or if you might agree with that by the end of this presentation, let's see. So to answer the question about what is content marketing, I'm going to talk about a study. Actually, today I'm going to bring up 3 studies to just help inform us and broaden our understanding of what content marketing is. So the first of these is the Nonprofit Content Marketing 2015 Benchmarks, Budgets, and Trends. This was a study conducted by the Content Marketing Institute and Blackbaud in partnership with each other. I'm going through these studies, so I've got my notes here. So this was a survey of 1,714 nonprofit professionals conducted last year, and the report came out in the fall, and it covered all of the subsectors within the nonprofit sector. So earlier in the year, Content Marketing Institute, I mentioned this at the end, it's a great blog to read and follow, learn about content marketing. They revised their definition of what content marketing is, and here it is. Content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience. There's a reason I've bolded and italics some of the things here, and ultimately to drive action. So with this definition in mind, when they ask the question, does your organization use content marketing? 61% of the survey respondents said yes. The year before, 92% of nonprofit organizations said they deliver content marketing. So why the plummet? So again, back to those words that I bolded. Those words did not appear last year when the same question was asked. Did you have a question?
Yeah, how's that different than marketing in the good old days when the police went cops?
I'm gonna get right there. That's exactly what I'm going to talk about. You know, is it a buzzword? Is it actually any different than what we've already been doing? So these bolded and italicized words were not in their definition the previous year, which they used. Content marketing is the creation and distribution of educational or compelling content in multiple media formats to attract and or retain clients or constituents. So they didn't talk about the content being valuable, relevant, or consistent. They didn't talk about a clearly defined audience, and they didn't talk about driving action through content. And when they put those things in, the number of nonprofits who said they were doing content marketing dropped from 92 to 61%. So yeah, it's a bit of an uh-oh because you know, we all thought we were doing something and now we're not. But it's also a good thing because we need to understand what is the difference between content marketing and what we've been doing and why it matters. So when it's more clearly defined, nonprofits are holding themselves a bit more accountable. I guess I wasn't really delivering content marketing. I was producing content and just putting it out there. When the Blackbaud and CMI team looked into why nonprofits are delivering content marketing, these are the goals that were identified. So the way they asked the question was, how important is each of the following content marketing goals to your organization? These were the top 4 answers. Brand awareness, engagement with their constituents, retention of donors, constituents, clients, or acquisition of donors, constituents, or clients. Those are the top 4 most important. Brand awareness, engagement, retention, and acquisition. And then the next 3 were fundraising, advocacy, and program delivery. They also asked, a year ago we talked about this on NPMC chat. So this is the Twitter chat we mentioned. And I know it's hard for you to see this, but the same sentiments were echoed a year ago. So here, someone's talking about brand awareness. I saw someone from Furniture Bank here. Who's from Furniture Bank? Oh, hi. So Furniture Bank, Noah was on our chat last year, and he talked about moving donors to further engagement, furniture donors to financial donors. We've got engagement, we've got establishing our brand, and we have brand awareness. And building trust with our audiences. So we're kind of on the same wavelength about what we want content to do for us. In this survey, they also asked nonprofit professionals how many content marketing tactics they're using. This year, in the 2015 report, the answer is 12. The year before, it was 11. So everyone's doing just a little bit more. What tactics are they using? So the way this was worded was, of all the tactics nonprofit marketers use, this is straight up, which content marketing tactics does your organization use? Social media, other than blogs, was #1, far and away, 93%. I'm interested if anyone has a take on whether they consider social media to be a content marketing tactic. I think made a very gray area, and I don't consider blog social media at all, but maybe we can chat about that. In-person events is #2. E-newsletters and articles on your website. So those are the top 4. And then we have illustrations or photos, videos, blogs, infographics, or print newsletters. So I've got some of those up here. Interesting that illustrations and photos weren't even on the survey the year before. And once it was added, 86% of respondents were delivering them. So then, oh, sorry, there's more. Print magazines, case studies, microsites, and research reports. So you might be sitting here thinking already, we do a lot of those, we do some of those, and I didn't know I was a content marketer. So let's dig a little deeper. Now, of those tactics, these are the tactics that the survey respondents, that more than 50% of the survey respondents said were most effective. #1, which I think might be surprising to some to think of as a content marketing tactic, in-person events. 74% said that was effective. And then illustration and photos is the next one, which wasn't even on the survey last year. E-newsletters, there's that social media content again. Also effective, good old-fashioned print magazines, print newsletters, videos, and microsites. And the two that have increased in terms of nonprofits feeling that they're effective were microsites and print magazines. So someone asked me about microsites, and if anyone has a better definition, please jump in here. But my definition or my interpretation of it would be a dedicated site focused in on an event, a campaign, an issue, or cause. Would anyone like to challenge or add to that definition of microsites? No? Okay. So now we're starting to get an understanding, a pretty big survey of what content marketing is, what we want to do with content marketing, what are some of the tactics, and what do people feel are effective. There's another study I want to bring in to ask, so how is this different than what we've been doing all of this time? And that was the 2015 Nonprofit Communications Trends Report, which was pulled together by the nonprofitmarketingguide.com. Kibby LaRue Miller is behind that. So this is a survey of 1,500 nonprofits. For the most part, it was marketing and communications professionals, and then also fundraising, executive directors, and others weighed in on this survey. So I won't get into as much detail with this one as last, but I just want to point out a couple of really important similarities. So when asked, why are you communicating? Why does your nonprofit communicate? The responses were to engage the community, retain current donors, for general brand awareness, to acquire new donors, and to show the organization as a thought leader. So the first 4 here are the same as the first 4. They're in a slightly different order, but they're the same top goals of content marketers. So again, talking the same talk. Respondents to this survey were given a list of 13 communications tactics and asked to rank them in importance. #1 most important communications tactic or vehicle for nonprofits is website. Next in importance is email, social media, in-person events, print marketing, and then media relations or PR. So once again, you'll see everything other than this right here is the same as on the content marketing survey. Same channels. Nonprofit Marketing Guide calls these the big 6 because they've been the same since 2011 in terms of survey respondents saying these are the most important to nonprofits. So starting to think about the difference. The communicators are doing the same things as the content marketers. They're probably the same people. What is the difference? This is a quote from another report called The State of Content Marketing 2015 by Contently. Does anyone else know how to say that? Do I say it the way you do it? Contently. And it says, the give first mentality is the essence of a good relationship. It's also increasingly true of content marketing, which as of 2015 is officially the fastest growing marketing channel for most businesses. So the give first mentality, we're kind of used to pushing out our content and just imposing our messages on our audiences. But content marketing is offering and giving content, in this case, that our audiences want. It's offering more than asking and drawing people in with value and relevant and credible content. Between the 2 studies, I'm going to ease off on the studies in a second, the top challenges were the same across studies. So In the Content Marketing Institute study, they asked, with regard to content marketing, how challenged are you with each of the following? And these were the items on the list. I'll read you some of the items on the list, and there won't be any surprise to nonprofit marketers. So lack of budget, ability to measure content effectiveness, ability to produce engaging and consistent content, a lack of integration across marketing, gaps in the knowledge and skills of our internal team, technology-related challenges, lack of buy-in from those higher up, and finding trained content marketing professionals. Measuring content effectiveness came up in both studies as a big concern. In the Content Marketing Institute said it kicked lack of time right off of the previous year's results. So that's such a common thing we hear in nonprofit, not enough money, not enough time. But we are so concerned about measuring content effectiveness that it knocked lack of time right out. And that's a good thing. We're not okay anymore with just producing, and shipping out content. We need to know that it's working. And I'm sure you can relate that you need to know and you need to tell the higher ups, that we're referring to the buy-in here, what's working, what's not. And now more than ever, we're able to assess that. We're able to measure that. Okay, so we're gonna go back out to sharing this conversation with you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to walk through the tactics that we have put up here, because I'm interested in hearing what people in the room are already doing. And like I said, whether you think of yourself as a content marketer or not, I just want to hear examples and share with each other examples of what people are doing in each of these areas. So I'm going to read from the sheet if no one volunteers. But if there's something you want to talk about, something you've put your name up, it's coming, volunteer if you want to share about it. And then I have some examples to show as well. So would anyone like to share what they're doing? No, not me. What they're doing with in-person events. I see it's a very popular tactic up on the wall. Anyone want to tell us about the event they're running and what it looks like, basically? What do you do? Should I walk over to the Post-it note and pick somebody? Yeah.
Well, because our big event starts tomorrow. One of our big events starts tomorrow. We host an annual amateur theater festival for artists from around the province.
And can you say the organization?
We're Theatre Ontario. We're the arts service organization for all theatre in the province. So this is for the amateur sector, and we've got 4 productions coming from the 4 regions of the province. So we've got evening performances, we've got workshops during the day, we've got an awards brunch on Sunday, those types of things.
And in your mind, based on what we've talked about so far, do you want to share anything about sort of how running these events benefits you as an organization or supports your goals?
Well, it gives us an opportunity. I mean, in some ways, the event itself is an organizational goal in terms of ultimately it's about the respect for theater throughout the province. In many parts of the province, amateur theater is people's first exposure to theater, or it's their only exposure to theater locally. So the quality of that work is important for the sector, sector-wide.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for going first. So just in case, we had a shy room, I have examples for each, but unfortunately for Joyce, she's on the spot because the first example I had for in-person events is TechSoup Canada and this event right here. So rather than me explaining it, would you like to just, I know we're here and we're attending, but talk about why you're running these events and how it might benefit the organization?
Yeah, and similar to Theatre Toronto, it is part of our mission goal. We want to have as much resources available to, I don't know, maybe I should just stand up. So you're not looking through 3 walls of laptops. For us, we want to break down the barrier to technology, so we try to hit all of the different audiences. Majority of nonprofits are late adopters of technology. So while we try to cover the online space, we have in-person events because there's a lot of people who are not comfortable with webinars, not comfortable reading stuff online, because they much rather come in person and talk with someone to work out some of the issues or challenges or topics that they want to learn from. So even though we love the online space and we're active there as well, in-person events are important to us as an organization because that's where our audience is. It's very cool.
Yes, an unexpected organization to go live and in person. From the outside, you don't know much about what you do, so thank you. All right. Illustrations or photos? Over here? Anyone want to talk about what they're doing with graphics or photography? see one I want to ask about. But does anyone want to share? Well, then I'm going to pick on Furniture Bank. Because I know some of what you've done with visuals. There was a storytelling, I don't know if you were there at the time, but around a year ago there was a storytelling blog post that followed furniture from...
Yeah. I mean, that particular initiative was, we had Noah, who you know, who's our social media guru. We stuck him on a truck, and he followed, you know, a couch from where the donor handed it over to our driver and helper, all the way to through the city to Furniture Bank, onto our showroom. Well, it was first unloaded in our warehouse, then transported to the showroom, and then eventually got into was chosen by a client, and eventually we even followed it to the client's home, and then, you know, eventually, you know, being part of that household. And yeah, it was, you know, a lot of photos, a lot of, you know, it just helped to get the message across that your donated furniture, you know, can have another life.
Absolutely.
After it's done with, you know, after you're done with it.
Cool. And that's a bit of, it's an example I know of. I know it's a little bit older. Do you have any insights now that that particular campaign or blog post was out there on either the results, or would you do it again, sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly we find illustrations and photos work really well on social media, just because, you know, it's so much more accessible, and it's you can there's so much more sort of reception to that sort of as opposed to just words.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Cool.
It works really well.
Yeah, I was really shocked that Content Marketing Institute didn't have that as a category on the study 1 year ago. They only had infographics, but they didn't have this general category of illustrations and photos. And as you said, it's so powerful. People want to share imagery potentially more than written content. So cool. I came prepared with an example, and this is an example from Girl Guides of Canada. And they kind of realized that they were rich with these archival, historical photos, and started sharing them on special occasions or on special milestones or theme days, or based on themes. So here's a Flickr album of Girl Guide uniforms, and it must have been related to Camping Day or camping awareness. They did a Flickr album all about Girl Guides and camping. And again, they found that these were like the most shared images that they'd ever put out. People love these historical archival photos. So it ended up getting a home of its own on their website, and has led to great outcomes for them. They have more interaction, more partners, people wanting to use the photos, more inquiries from journalists who want to use the photos or who saw the photos and want to kind of write about the Girl Guides or learn more, share the story a little bit more. I'm planning on taking questions at the end, but let's wing it. If you have a question you want to stop me, ask me. I just tend to stay on track better when I do it at the end. Let me know if you want clarification. So e-newsletters. I expected this to be a full sheet of paper. Actually, it looks like in-person events might be more full, but who would like to share? Just describe what your e-newsletter looks like how often it goes out, what you cover in it.
It goes out monthly.
What organization?
This would be for Rotary International.
Thank you.
It's absolutely horrendous. There is more type and so few pictures and graphics, right? It's just painful.
And you said once a month?
Yes. Once a month.
A member newsletter.
Yes.
Anyone?
To 2,200 people.
So it's probably not meeting goals if you're a member and you're not impressed. Anyone impressed or pleased with what they're doing with the e-newsletter?
Yes, the person who puts it out.
Excuse me. Anyone else want to share? Yes.
Obviously I would rather one of you, I don't want to take up space, but I texted, we have 2 different newsletters. One is just a product alert for our donations program that just lets people know this is back, and that's a very, it's purpose driven. But our By the Cup newsletter that goes out once a month is a great way. It's like little bits about our program. There's bits about things we're doing, things about Met Tuesday or webinars we've seen or partners that we're involved in, and then always a soup recipe.
Oh, cool, yes. And that idea of adding a little something quirky or a little something entertaining or a little extra value to your readers so that they look forward to. Does the soup recipe work? Do you have a sense of whether people are actually...
Yeah.
Well, actually
Look at all
click
the
on it.
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a time a couple of years ago that somebody made one of the soups
Yeah.
and posted it on Twitter.
Nice.
I was like, this was great, thank you.
Talk about engagement, right?
Yeah.
The click, the read, a lot of action taken.
It looked good too. They did a good job.
Excuse me. So I just have an example from the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada. Health organizations have a great opportunity with this kind of thing. This is specifically their Heart Smart Families newsletter, and they focus on healthy habits. Again, food is a popular one. Recipes, activities you can do with your kids. So that's e-newsletters. What about video? Anyone really love the video that they're doing? Or don't love it, but you just want to share sort of what you're doing with video right now and where you might want to go with it. Mm-hmm.
I work on the board of Future Aces Foundation, or Carnegie Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and we do a leadership development thing over a weekend out north of here. And we do stuff like all kinds of team building stuff, super tug of war, but it's a lot of activities. So
Yes.
the kids are hardly sitting still.
Yes.
And so we use a fair bit of video with overlaid with some descriptions of what's going on and even descriptions of when they do a post event or activity thing, we have the discussion as well.
And what do you do with the videos, or where do you share them?
Well, we share it back with them, but we also use it in our marketing to other schools, because we're in the schools.
Okay, great.
I should have mentioned that.
Okay, great. Anyone else want to talk about what they're doing with video? No? Yeah?
I'll share a little video success story on Toronto Cat Rescue. I did a video. I work at an adoption center. I'm a
Yeah.
volunteer coordinator, but when I was there, there was a little kitten playing. His name was Kingsley, who was jumping around playing with a little ball toy. So I got a little video up with my digital SLR, posted it on Facebook, tagged it as Toronto Cat Rescue. We have a lot of people who go to our Facebook
I
page
bet.
looking for stuff. And by the end of the day, somebody found him, fell in love with him, and the next day he
Wow.
went home.
And plus a lot of other eyeballs for other
Yeah,
potential
and there was the video that watching him, jump around and play with the ball is what got him home.
I bet there are a lot of envious people right now, right? If we
No,
actually
there's
had
nothing to be envious of. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, your subject
Not a
matter.
bit
Of your
cute or
subject matter.
friendly, really.
Right. There was another video. Did you want to share?
Sure, just quickly. We're from We The Vote. We're like a youth voter engagement project.
Yes.
And we are in the process of creating videos that can also be, used, across platforms for advertisements as well as just hosted on YouTube. So if funding permits, we will push those out into ad space. So they're made really short so that they can be used.
Very good.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. And I just put up an example, Plan Canada, if you want to check them out. They have quite a lively YouTube channel. And all kinds of, there's a mix. I found this video to be pretty interesting because it was almost 80,000 views and it was purely a donation request video. They were purely asking for money and it was quite compelling and it did get a lot of eyeballs on it. So just a little example there. All right, blogs. Okay, good. We got a good roundup of blogs here. Anyone want to volunteer? I have one I want to ask. No? Enough TechSoup.
Yeah, someone, yeah.
How about Canadian Women's Foundation? Who's here from there? Yes?
So I'm not the person who really looks after the blog, but we do a lot of issues-based blogging.
Mm-hmm.
So we cover a variety of issues that deal with women and women's empowerment and women's equality. So often when there's something in the news, we do sort of a little op-ed type thing.
Cool. So you have a good suite of planned content and then also the ability to step in and be spontaneous when you need to. And any commentary on sort of how old the blog is or how it's working, if it's working well?
It's working really well. It's one of, so through social media is how we promote it, and it's actually one of the top entries to our website. And it's been around for 3 or 4 years now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So I actually I don't work in the nonprofit space, but I work for a CRM system for nonprofits. And so one of the things we've had the most success with is our blog, and majority of our traffic also comes through our blog. We started ramping it up in December, and one thing we've had a lot of, action with is talking to influencers and getting them to contribute to our blog. Like we had a blog, for example, where we had 11 top fundraising consultants all comment on a question about donation request letters, and that drove over 2,000 views in 1 month.
I think I saw that post getting circulated.
Oh, you saw it?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I would know some of the consultants.
Yeah, so
I
you
think
know
they
like
were,
Tom and yeah. So some of the bigger consultants actually commented, and so we got a lot of action and a lot of content downloads because we have this thing where we put a content offer that matches up with the subject of any blog, so that you can so we can capture your contact information, and also you can get some useful, helpful piece of content alongside our blog.
And do you help nonprofits to do that?
Yes, some of
Set
our
up
posts
the
are
lead
about.
magnets and
No, our software is more so fundraising than marketing.
okay.
But we do have a lot of posts about how to market better, how to utilize content marketing, how to utilize proper fundraising. It's a combination of fundraising and
You
marketing.
touched on a lot of points that I'm going to touch on later. So
Oh, okay.
that was
Great.
great.
Name of the company.
Yeah. Cosview. I didn't want to self-promote. Cosview. I'm here to learn, just like everybody
Cool.
else.
It was Causeview.
Yes.
Causeview. All right, so for the example I brought, I just brought Canadian Red Cross. It's a big, well-established blog. They do a lot of updates from the field, and in this way they show sort of, they're also quite nimble. You know, they post when they're responding to a disaster, but then they also have ongoing updates to show their impact and their accountability. So it's a nice blog to have a look at. Infographics. Before I go look, anyone want to talk about an infographic they created? Oh, everyone has talked already from infographics. I have Canadian Women's Foundation, Furniture Bank, and Be the Vote. Anyone want to volunteer? Yes, please.
We do some that do a visual representation of voter turnout, just to really drive home the facts of who's voting, who's not voting, and have little people like in colors. I don't know, they look cute.
And do you find them getting shared? Do you find, how do they perform compared to other things you
There's
do?
definitely potential to do more of that. We want to do more of that, but yeah, so but they definitely get more clicks, views, shares than straight whoever was saying earlier, text or whatever. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And so depending on your organization, maybe there's, you are a data-rich organization, you've got this information to share, and it's never going to be looked at buried in a PDF report. So infographics can be a nice way of doing it. I mean, I think we couldn't get away from people talking about infographics a couple of years ago, but they're still alive and well, and from those other studies we see that there may even be an increase in use. So this is an example from Imagine Canada. And they have a lot of that kind of like heavy-duty information that they want to be able to distill and distribute quickly and easily. It's used internally, it's used externally. This is an infographic they produced on the state of volunteering in Canada, some of the trends, what people are doing. All right, microsites. Anyone want to share about microsites? CACL. We talked to I'm bad with the acronym. Oh, of course, Neil.
So we have a lot of microsites. It's the main way we market our programs. So when I say a lot, we have 4. And it's basically our 4 different streams of areas we work in.
Yeah.
So inclusive employment, inclusive education, those types of things. And each site sort of addresses those issues. We do have a problem with some of our microsites because we found that it's siloed a lot of the work we do and drives traffic. It sort of doesn't allow people to know that it's the work that we're doing. And these microsites kind of expand into kind of their own website very quickly. Because the people that are directing these programs get very excited about the content and keep adding to this content as opposed to the original project plan of keeping it to the basic, this is what it is, and drive people back to the website so they can give a donation based on that project. So one of the things we're actually in the process of trying to do is collapse all these microsites back into our main website. So that's our strategy 5 years ago when I started there, was to do that. Our strategy starting last year was to basically trim the fat and bring everything back in.
Okay.
And that includes the social media channels that were associated with these 4 different sites.
Do you have separate social media accounts?
Yeah,
for
we
them?
had, when I say it became bloat, it was bloated.
Yes.
And it was one person myself managing everything.
Can you say the name of your organization again, just as I said?
Canadian Association for Community Living, most people know us as CACL.
Okay. And, okay, so it's they're all 5 years old?
More or less, yeah. Some of them were older than existed before I showed up.
Yeah.
And there was directives when I showed up to redevelop these sites because they were old ASP sites that were not useful at all anymore, and so they were redeveloped as like microsites using WordPress.
Okay. Do you see a future for microsites? If you're migrating those ones back, do you think you've learned a lesson about microsites?
Yeah, I've learned a lesson that that I think they're useful for short. So we've also used microsites for conferences.
Yes.
And they're really great for that. Really bad for a program, marketing a program in the long run.
That's good to know.
If your program is going to be like 6 months to a year and then end, maybe that's a good way to do it. But if it's a long-term directive for the organization, I wouldn't do it as a separate microsite. I would push senior management to keep it in-house so that the public knows the work that you're doing. Because if you're siloing all your work into separate websites, it's very difficult for people to know that this is your work, especially when in our case, a lot of these things are, there's partner organizations with these projects.
Yes.
So it gets very complicated.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought it was interesting to see that microsite use was on the rise actually in that study. I didn't realize that, so that was new to me. When I looked, did anyone else want to talk about a microsite before I move on? When I looked for examples, because it was kind of news to me, this kind of hits exactly what you were saying, David. The Suzuki Foundation, they have a microsite for a specific campaign that's a month long. And it works well here because it's about their 30 by 30 challenge. It's about getting out in nature for 30 minutes a day for 30 days. And they have content. If you go look at this microsite, it's very lean. So they're keeping it tight. There is a little bit of information about the benefits of being in nature. That says you in nature, at work, at school. So they have a workplace program. They have a school program for people to participate in this challenge. An FAQ section, so there is content there. But as you go through the site, everywhere you see is a call to action to join the challenge. That's really the reason for having this site. And it's pretty light and really nice, full of images as well. Research reports, how exciting! Is anyone producing white papers or research? Yes, Mallory, please share.
I work for an agency called Adventure Place. We're a children's mental health facility. And we really pride ourselves on the research reports because working with children, there's a real push for evidence-based practice and evidence-based treatment. So a lot of what we do is based in science and based in research. So we come up with a report every year called the Quality Assurance Report, where it talks about the outcomes of children in treatment at our facility and whatnot. And it's interesting to professionals often, but not really interesting to donors and parents. So there seems to be a bit of a disconnect there. So it's something that we kind of struggle with.
Is it, I mean, are the reports written for the professionals? Is it serving your objective in terms of your interactions with them?
Yeah, they're written for professionals, but we're not, like, that's not really part of our goal is to attract other professionals. It's more to build awareness in the community so that we can support the community that we're in and to attract donors. And it's not really in line with maybe some of the things that they're interested in or that they're moving towards. So
this reminds me of the Girl Guides example in that everyone might not be interested in the whole report, but you might be able to mine it to present information in the form of infographics or in other ways that there may be nuggets that are useful to your other constituents.
Yeah, it's a great starting point.
Yeah, I mean, often nonprofits I find are so rich with content or assets and just need to kind of realize what to look for, where to look for it. So, thank you. The example I brought in here is from the Nonprofit Technology Network, and it was convenient for me because I'm also going to recap some of the findings as it pertains to what we're talking about today. So they put together the 2015 Digital Outlook Report. Let's see if I wanted to say anything about it right now. Well, basically, producing this report supports their mandate of helping nonprofits to use technology more effectively in their missions. So I'm going to explain a little bit about Nonprofit Technology Network. I think this is my last one. So podcasts, yes, podcasts. I was surprised that I think only one person wrote up here, right? So this is the Herb Carnegie Foundation. You have a podcast? The Herb Carnegie Foundation is a podcast?
No, I haven't yet. The person who was running it doesn't know.
Oh.
In other words, I put it in Roxbury.
You were Herb Carnegie Foundation? Maybe it went up on the
No, I
wrong
was.
sheet. Yeah.
I was. I just got.
Oh, okay. Okay. I would be surprised. I was surprised that anyone was there because it's not something I'm seeing a lot of nonprofits producing, though there are some. So Greenpeace Canada has a podcast. It's a monthly podcast. I discovered it last year and I checked back on it before this presentation. It's still going strong. The last podcast was released a week ago and the one before that was a month before. So check it out, have a listen. They cover, obviously the current topics that are relevant to them. I made a note of some of them. So talking about things like detoxing kids' toys, ditching the car, saving the bees. So consumer-friendly topics that relate to their mission. And okay, so I haven't, but who has listened to Serial? Who follows Serial, right? There's a lot of people. So I feel like Serial was the thing that got a greater critical mass listening to podcasts. So it's something to consider because it can be an intimate and like a close connection with your constituents, being in their earbuds when they're commuting, when they're going for a run, and for me when I'm doing the dishes. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to explore, yes.
Excuse my ignorance.
Yes.
Cereal, spelled with a C or an S?
S.
Oh,
CBC has all kinds of podcasts that are really well done and very well interested in looking at models, and some of them are only for 15 minutes or 10 minutes.
Yeah, podcasts, yes, go ahead.
Oh, just if anyone's really interested, because I freaking love podcasts. So NPR puts out a lot of really good stuff. So Radiolab's top one, Invisibilia is really good. But if you're looking for shorter ones, Planet Money tends to look at economics issues. So they do 15, 20-minute podcasts. So one of them was looking at why the Dow Jones is a terrible index for the stock market. Another one was looking at how roses get from the field into a bouquet in Manhattan on Valentine's Day. And they're just 15 minutes and they touch on a very specific issue, but they all revolve around a central theme.
There's also Freakonomics. There's also This American Life. There's Tom and Ray Magliozzi and Car Talk.
So a lot of podcast fans who are very familiar and you know the format if you decide to explore it. Also, you're out at a professional development event. You've touched on some that are professional development, but that's where I keep up to date. Content Marketing Institute that I mentioned has a podcast. Social Media Examiner has a podcast, so maybe I should relax and listen to some that are a bit more for enjoyment, but I'm constantly staying updated through podcasts. Again, something to consider. Were there any other examples of content marketing tactics, just before we move on, that anyone, I didn't put everything up on these flip charts that we went over in the beginning. There were a lot. I'd love to hear it if someone was one of those nonprofits.
What about Twitter chats?
I run a Twitter chat. I don't think of it as content marketing, but that's debatable. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's why social media, other than blogs, was up there for the kind of interaction you can get. I feel like Twitter chats are events. But then again, live in-person events were on the list. So I think some of the areas are gray. But yeah, it's definitely a way to build your brand, engage constituents.
When you're engaging them, then you can follow up with those people later after the chat.
Yes.
You further develop the relationship.
Absolutely. They're great for relationship
I
building.
agree. As someone that's participated in the chat, I feel it's kind of like where forums have left off. A Twitter chat is another place to
Yes.
to have those discussions that in an indirect way can be used as marketing what you're doing.
Well, I would call Twitter chat. I would call it content marketing for one thing. If you want to have a hashtag trend on Twitter, you can pay for it. Or if you get a popular enough Twitter hashtag, you can hack it and actually legitimately become a popular hashtag on Twitter.
Right, yes.
And also, I would say like something like Snapchat, because just recently at the UK vote, you can follow everyone who's posting that they were going to the voter stations or who they were voting for. Plus, or similarly to like the Globes or like the Oscars, they run their own Snapchat, which is still kind of content marketing because all the celebrities are behind the scenes.
Right.
So,
Sure.
And BuzzFeed is using Snapchat now as well.
Yes. Yeah,
So
so
I'm just going to quickly interject. If
Yes.
you're looking for a Snapchat example for a nonprofit, look at World Wildlife Fund. They did a Snapchat campaign called Last Selfie. So
Yes.
I don't know if it's really content marketing because it's not about producing content. That's actually more of a fundraising campaign. But if
okay.
you're looking into like a nonprofit example, I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I saw a really good one run by a museum association as well. It was very much just getting people to take pictures of themselves in museums as a way of this sort of connecting thing. And it was fascinating just to see how it, this sort of global image of the museum industry.
Yeah, and then back to engagement, and then what you're all touching on is this idea of, in some ways I think of content marketing as thinking of your organization as a publisher, getting into a publishing mindset, but at the same time, getting user-generated content that is associated with your brand or with your goals. Yeah, it can go either way. I obviously don't have a definitive answer. I just have some ideas and some other people to point to for what they think. Did anyone have print newsletter or print magazine that's doing awesome? Because that was on the list of tactics, and I was surprised to see them
We have one that's on its way out.
on its way out.
In fact, 4 of them it's on its way out.
4 of them on their way out, yeah. I was really surprised to see them going as strong as they still were. Any other tactics you want to share or events before we move on? Okay. Okay, so where do you start? I think I've kind of shared what I've learned about what the difference is or what the shifts might be. If you could think of yourself as a marketer or communicator and you weren't quite sure what the difference is, think about what you're already delivering. If you're thinking about starting with content marketing, you're not starting anything from scratch. Again, the Girl Guides and the research reports from Adventure Place, think about what assets you have and what you can leverage more. Again, nonprofits are so rich with content. This is what I do for a living, is point out to nonprofits how rich they already are with knowledge and content. And then within those assets, shift to your mindset. So it's a shift to attracting people rather than pushing your messages on existing audiences. It's about providing value to bring people in and wanting to hear from you. Measurement is key. We saw in those studies that I think we've gotten away as a sector for a long time with being able to just publish, produce, and without measuring as much as we might have wanted to. And many of our digital platforms give us that opportunity to measure our effectiveness and document your plan. Referring back to the Content Marketing Institute study, they kind of did a comparison. I encourage you to look back at that full report, but they did a comparison about nonprofit content marketers who see themselves as effective versus ineffective, and the effective ones had a documented plan they were delivering on. You can't wing it. Content marketing can become overwhelming, so you need a documented plan. One more study to talk about. I made reference to it from Nonprofit Technology Network, the 2015 Digital Outlook Report. So this was a survey, smaller survey, 473 nonprofit professionals, and they wanted to figure out where digital strategy meets marketing communications and fundraising and what they could learn from there. A couple of little points I wanted to share from this and some of their analysis that I wanted to share. So they indicated that the tactics that their survey respondents indicated would increase in focus for their organizations in 2015 were videos, images, and their infographics again. And here are a couple of insights from the study authors. According to the Digital Outlook Report, any successful inbound marketing strategy is based on content creation and distribution with these 4 pillars here: blogging, social media, downloads, and email marketing as being necessary in order to generate, nurture, and close leads, building email lists, building a database of constituents. This is a quote, piece of information out of HubSpot's Introduction to Blogging for Nonprofit. They said organizations that blog have 55% more website visitors. So if you think back to the list I shared earlier in the Blackbot and CMI study, blogging was really low on the list of tactics, and it didn't even fit, it wasn't even mentioned in the most effective tactics. I find that surprising because your blog can serve as a home base for so many of these other things. And of course there are benefits of blogging that I'm going to get into, or I'm going to touch on very briefly. And in the Nonprofit Communications Trends Report, organizations are saying their website is their #1 most important asset. Websites that have blogs have 55% more visitors, so I think that's something to really make note of. Here's the continuation of that statement from the Digital Outlook Report. But inbound is also about ensuring that your audience finds your content through search engine marketing and through search engine optimization. And again, a blog is such an important part of both of those. I mean, this goes beyond blogging, but it can be so important. And finally, from the Digital Outlook Report, they cited the right tools that you need in place to be effective in the digital marketing communications landscape. So you need a mobile-friendly website. More than 50% of web traffic today comes on mobile. So in 2015, you need to focus on having a mobile-friendly website, landing pages, and emails.
Also, sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
2 weeks ago, Google changed their algorithm to give higher priority to mobile friendly websites.
Yeah, there was a mobile get-in a
Yeah.
few weeks ago, yeah. So if your site isn't already mobile friendly, I mean, if Google's not sending people over, then yeah, you're in trouble. Google Analytics, so it's time to get serious about tracking and going beyond basic analytics, basic vanity stats, and setting up goals in Google Analytics to track whether your content is doing what you want it to do. For example, sign-ups, just more engagement on your site, actions taken on your site that you want visitors to take. Optimize landing pages and websites that all have clear calls to action. Your content has to be working for you. And good data tracking, so strong databases to track your interactions with your constituents, again, so you can follow them and offer them content along the way and move them along a path to action. So I just wanted to close by sharing some helpful resources. I kept mentioning Content Marketing Institute. So their blog in general is a useful blog to follow to learn about content marketing. I'm going to read this because it might be hard to read, but there are 2 ebooks that they have that you can just Google and download. I think they're both behind a sign up. So the first is The Essentials of a Documented Content Marketing Strategy, 36 questions to answer. And the CMI Content Marketing Framework, 7 building blocks to success. So we're talking about having a documented strategy. Those 2 ebooks are good to help you figure out what questions to ask yourself and to ask within your organization as you start to make a plan. The Contently blog is another one. I find that one has more content. It's about content marketing and content production, but hits on trends, so you can feel a little more current about content marketing. And then this is one of the blogs that I run, the Nonprofit Mark Community blog, and I put it here because nonprofit communicators write about how to. So there's a lot of content there, how to make a video, how to do visual storytelling. So it's a good resource if I do say so myself. And finally, I am running a training series starting this Friday for anyone who is interested in starting blogging specifically. My focus is copywriting and content creation, so Friday afternoons at lunchtime is over the phone. I'm going to rock it old school. I've never done it in this format before. And I'm just going to share what I do to run the Nonprofit Mark community and how all of the things that made it the success that it is in terms of being a multi-author blog that populates itself with content and attracts visitors. So Fridays starting at noon this week, and come talk to me if you want to, or you can sign up at moflo.ca/blogging-teleseminars-May 2015. So that's it. I'd love to take questions. As you can tell, I'm more about getting information from the room, so if I can't answer it, I hope someone else in the room can answer your question. Is there anything you want to ask?
I think one of the issues that we have when it gets to content marketing, specifically around video and podcasting, is the technology involved.
Yes.
It gets into that whole question of the budget to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Podcasting specifically?
Podcasting and video. I'd like to hear. They're both areas for us where we've tried a little bit of video and it hasn't been effective, largely because we feel like we're doing it on the cheap and it looks cheap.
So I'm going to be the first to confess that I focus on content. I don't produce either of those. I don't Actually, that's not entirely true, so I guess I have a partial answer for you. As an entrepreneur, not for my nonprofit clients, I do all of those. I don't do podcasts, but I do all of those things. I produce videos. Believe me, my budget is smaller than any nonprofit. Well, maybe not. maybe not. But I think a good way to approach it is to follow what some of these online entrepreneurs are doing. There are all kinds of people who are helping small business owners produce video on a shoestring, telling you what tools to use, video, podcast, all of those things. So, I mean, off the top of my head, I know for me, I have produced videos as simple as PowerPoint, what's it called, screen flow to capture presentations, purchase a good, more than $100 mic, but not that much, small one-time investments, and kind of adapt to what you can make look professional. Because it doesn't have to be complicated, it can be simple, but targeted to your audience on a shoestring. But I would love for someone else to step in about tech answers or to address these concerns. Yes?
The rule for video, if ideally you hire a professional videographer, professional audio, professional video, that's the ideal case. If you can't, people will forgive non-professional looking video a lot more than the audio. So, if your video, if you have to choose between the two, make your audio good. I mean, if the video's not whatever, people can forgive that, but the one thing most people don't forgive is crappy audio.
Yeah, no, we did a great little advocacy video. The content is wonderful, but you can't hear half the people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what they're saying, but yeah.
Do you have a specific mic or anything that you would suggest?
I mean, depending what it is, like you can get for instance, you get USB microphones, for like, I don't know, for like $75, dollars or whatever. That'll do really great. If it's just you in a room or whatever, that'll do really great. Audio that'll be good enough for without having to break the bank as far as your audio equipment goes.
And start small to test it, right? If you're thinking about experimenting with a channel, start small, invest in like the essentials, keep it low key, and then if you find people are receptive to video, then maybe you can make the case for more budget. But there's a lot that can be done on a shoestring.
Yeah, it is. Look for students too. There's a lot of students out there who are trying to build portfolios, who have access to stuff like through their school or whatever, and they can rent stuff like that, and you're looking for something to put under, something to add to a portfolio, and some of them would take it on, if it allows them to add to a portfolio.
But there's also the innovation hub at the new libraries, like Fort York Library. There's a green screen there and audio, and they let you use it all. It's really, really great.
That's great to know.
Yeah, really good.
Jenna, did you want to say something?
Oh, just a tool that I use. It's called Director. It was bought by YouTube, and you can shoot directly from your phone. And it actually produces pretty quality video for $0.00.
That's a good price.
Yeah, the price is right. I mean, is it professional quality? Maybe not, but it's been acceptable for what I need.
Yeah. Any other answers to that or other questions? How are we doing for time, Joyce?
We have
And if you can't do professional lighting, try to find yourself a window with a lot of natural light that you can use to light yourself.
There really is a lot of information available about doing all of this on a shoestring, or what the cheap tools are, and when you see the results that some of these folks are doing, it looks impressive. It looks pretty professional. So, any other questions or comments or anything that came to you over the course of the presentation?
Well, something else too, for content marketing, SlideShare. Doing slide presentations. If you do a presentation, put it up and put it in SlideShare. Be sure to use lots of hashtags in your SlideShare.
Oh, I didn't know that about SlideShare.
I did a presentation at PodCamp, and I used a Bitly link to a SlideShare presentation to track how many people looked at my slides. It was like 4 people looked at my slides that day, but I had 220 hits. So that meant that people found most of the people who were looking at my slides were people doing hashtag searches on SlideShare. So
that's so great, and didn't get mentioned anywhere in here, but that's such a great publishing.
So that would be my suggestion too, is take this presentation and post it on SlideShare. And then you can put it out on the meetup thing or to find it.
No, I use SlideShare, but I forgot to mention it in terms of nonprofits and the opportunity. As an easy way to publish. And so often nonprofits are out delivering education and have the content.
Slide,
yes.
Our research institute uses it for most of its presentations, and I would say it's the the one social platform for our research institute that has the most success.
Cool.
Yeah.
Success in terms of driving visitors back to your website, or?
In terms of views.
Views, okay. Yeah. And with SlideShare, you can integrate it so people sign up on SlideShare to a list or whatever action you want them to take. Any other questions or comments? I know it's hot here. People always want to go cool off. No? All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you.
Yeah, so thank you again, Marlene. So just a heads up. So we will send out all the resources through the meetup group. If you have any questions, you can just post there as well. And if somehow we're not responsive, you can always hunt us down on TechSoupCanada.ca. Okay, thank you again for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Please eat food if there's any other.